Yesterday, I was at Illinois Institute of Technology, and they said, the students there said, there's likely to be a greatly reduced attendance because of visas, student visas. And I said, wow, if that's the case, it's going to be all across the country, not just the Illinois Institute of Technology. So my question is that a situation here? Has there been fewer visas from non-American students being unable to get visas because of something upstairs and visa situations? That's
across the country.
Huh?
That's across the country, I believe.
Yes, so it's true here as well.
Yeah. Everywhere. Yes.
Okay, but everywhere you don't know. You know what's here. Significant. Then they also said in November, there's another batch coming in November. I don't know why. They didn't say why. But maybe grad students, and they can do their research when they come for undergrad, when they can do it in November. Is that true here too?
Yeah, they come mostly they come in August and January. That's where the intake would be. Fall and spring they call it.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Yes, that would be true here.
So what's with November? Student visas in November. You've heard that one here? No. Okay. Just curious. So this is towards the beginning of your semester, so you haven't had these gatherings this semester yet, right? This is the first, number one?
Yes.
Okay.
You are number one first.
I'm number one. These chronologically. But I found that the attendance, it started very modest, but it was a hall, like big auditorium. The chemistry building was on this side and that side, the tables, elements, big posters, the big, huh? It's pretty cool. So we significantly reduced student visa issue.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens now. Chronologically, that's what we did.
With 10 life and towards.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. So you guys got the visas, okay? This continuation of what was there in the past, right?
Hare Krishna.
We did the end of this state of this.
You want to have the stand?
Yeah, I'm going to stand up.
I don't think so. I've seen you up in the background, but I haven't. My name is Gordon Etteraj. I've been here in Champaign for 25 years. Yeah. Good for me. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
And you watched it up and down.
Yeah, including myself, up and down, all around. Yeah.
Solo journey.
What?
Solo journey.
Pretty much. I mean, you've got all the part as any temples, not very many temples except for St. Louis, Chicago, but basically.
You going tomorrow?
I'll be there. Yeah, and Bloomington is awesome. Bloomington is,
So far, is that closer to St. Louis?
oh yeah, it's only an hour away. So, yeah, that's a great find for me anyway. Yeah, I was here when Don Kelly, they were just really close here at the Red Herrings, giving up Prasadam for $5 like any Prasadam, and that was about my night. That was my night anyway. So that was great.
You can keep both one in the front and one at the back.
And then afterwards they had a little bit of every Sunday I went to work. I didn't have to pay on the Sunday, so I went for Sunday all you can eat Prasadam too. So and then cooked on at the time anyway. So it was a perfect.
You never missed that.
See it in Urbana. Yeah, it was great. They're doing great over there.
My being based more or less in Chicago, if you head with those two.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a long story, but it's short.
Yeah.
And then with that, it was so, they wanted to do what they wanted to do, and they were inspired.
Okay.
He had to build his own house.
Yeah. Their house is finished now, and I heard he was the 10th president now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but I wouldn't put it past it.
I mean, you're right there, right? That's what it's.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I go back there to Penn School every now and then. I kind of a little about halfway between Miss New Taliban and Alachua. So Thanksgiving, I go down there to visit my daughter there, and then the next Good Friday I take off, drive 5 hours to the Festival of the Holy Name. They have a.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure you are. But yeah, it's beautiful. I've been there. I've only been there once though. Keep on talking my wife into going to visit my daughter. Yeah, I know. I know. It's great.
How long do you know each other? Well, we maybe know the same person, Donna Kelly and Richard Shaw.
So how long were you here? 20 minutes. I've seen you around, but it's the opportunity.
Okay. I think we're ready to get going. Who's going to do the MC program? Going to do the MC?
No. Who is preparing? Who is MC?
Yeah.
I can explain if nobody's there.
Yeah.
It's all good.
You've got your own microphone. See how it works.
Yes.
There's a magic button.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited for today's talk. Just as an introduction, we are from the Bhakti Circle, which is a small group on campus that aims to express the wisdom of Bhakti Yoga and share it with everyone in practical ways. And today it is our greatest honor to be inviting Romapad Swami. He is a spiritual teacher and a motivational speaker, and he's been practicing and sharing the knowledge of Bhakti Yoga for more than 50 years now. And one of the most inspiring things about him is the way in which he connects spiritual, timeless ideas into modern life, whether that be how to deal with stress, how to find real happiness, or trying to discover who we are at the core. And he's spoken at companies, universities, communities all across the US and even internationally. And today we're going to be delving into a question that we can all ask ourselves, and that is, who am I? And we're deeply grateful to Ropat Swami for touching on that topic today. So please join me in welcoming him with a round of applause.
You did read a script. Thank you. The script one is really interesting. Okay. One of the places that I visit is Texas A&M in College Station. One of the places. You know the place?
I graduated from there.
Oh, really? College Station. So my experience when you walk in, they have a big tower building, and it's where the program is. So you have to go by the elevator. And when the elevator door opens, there's this recorded voice that says, with a Texas accent, "Howdy." That's hello, and so I don't know what you say here in Champaign, Urbana, but howdy. Welcome all of you. I heard this is the first, chronologically, the first of your semester's gatherings. And I also heard just yesterday evening, I got it confirmed, the number of students, international students coming to Champaign-Urbana and all the universities in America has dropped because visas, student visas, kind of got yanked for some people, or new people aren't getting them, whatever the situation is. So I'm happy to see so many smiling faces. The topic, who am I, is I like very much. And there's many reasons why I like it very much. It's the fundamental message in Bhagavad Gita. By partnerships and technology, do well in your academic studies and get on that team and build rockets up to build the moon. But you can't go very far spiritually if you don't ask questions. So this is an exercise to ask that question. Anybody here not familiar with Bhagavad Gita? Okay, Bhagavad Gita. You know who's Krishna?
This way to that.
A little bit. Where are you from?
I'm from Mexico.
Mexico. Okay. Howdy, that's why you started. Okay. Bhagavad Gita, there are different ways to describe what it is. Krishna spoke it. And it's been enduring for over 5,000 years, so it's substance to that text. It's a very fundamental part of a vast body of literature called Veda. Veda means knowledge. So Bhagavad Gita is the essence of knowledge. I call it a book of wisdom. In all cultures of the world, I'm sure in Mexico, there are philosophers and wise people that wrote books, and people look up to those people in those books and put the wisdom to guide your life. In any culture, any language, any human civilization, wisdom. Bhagavad Gita is such a book. Another way of describing it is, it's describing the yoga system. Now in America, probably also mentioned, when people hear yoga, they think of asanas, sitting postures, and then maybe some pranayamas and breathing. And those two, asanas and pranayama, there's two parts of one of the multiple yoga systems. That one's called Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga means eight. Anga means limb. Ashtanga Yoga System, Chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita. So there's earlier forms, Chapter 1, Chapter 2. There's Sankhya Yoga, study of matter and spirit, and categories of matter and categories of spirit. We belong to the category of spirit. And then Dhyan Yoga or Sankhya Yoga. Then the meditation system, Dhyan Yoga, Chapter 6, which is also part of the Eightfold Yoga system. And then Bhakti Yoga, there to the ladder, running the ladder for steps leading up to the higher stage of yoga. The purpose of yoga, the practice, depending surrender with you. That's the byproduct if you do the Bhakti Yoga system. But the goal is to know the Supreme. Connect who you are with the Supreme. The word yoga in English is to connect, to link. Linking with something. And linking with the Supreme ultimately. Just higher and higher and higher.
It's a little bit hard.
Okay, I don't mind the other microphone.
Thank you so much.
We got like several microphones. Which one do you like?
Whichever one.
I'm fine with one holding, but. Okay, we'll try. Okay. You can hear better now? Okay. So this is just a little exposition on what is Bhagavad Gita. The structure of the yoga ladder leading to the topmost, chapter 6. Later we'll give you a Bhagavad Gita. We'll give you a copy. We'll give you a gift copy. The last verse in chapter 6, Krishna says, of all the systems of yoga, one is the Uttama, topmost form of yoga. And that topmost form of yoga is bhakti. So that's what this club is, the Bhakti Yoga Club. And the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, you're getting a tour of Bhagavad Gita. The middle 6 chapters is how to perform, and where to take you. What the train look like, and what's the destination of that train ride. Where to take you. Middle 6. On the ship of Theseus. And I looked at her like, what do you know about the ship of Theseus? He said, he studied in philosophy class. Now, in China, Theseus is a story by Plutarch. Now, Plutarch is a Greek guy. That's he wrote wisdom literature too. But in Greece, she's wanting to know what is this ship of Theseus story of Plutarch. What's your take on it? So she asked it again. So we're going to go through the ship of Theseus, a little TED talk, and it's really nicely graphically described. So look at the date, because before Plutarch, this is AD, before Plutarch and Socrates, he was also a wisdom literature guy. Socrates. You've heard his name. Socrates. So here's the Who Am I from Plutarch.
Throughout the history of mankind, three little words have sent poets to the blank page, philosophers to the agora, and seekers to the oracles. Who am I? From the ancient Greek aphorism inscribed on the temple of Apollo, know thyself, to the Who's Rock anthem, Who Are You? Philosophers, psychologists, academics, scientists, artists, theologians, and politicians have all tackled the subject of identity. Their hypotheses are widely varied and lack significant consensus. These are smart, creative people, so what's so hard about coming up with the right answer? One challenge certainly lies with the complex concept of the persistence of identity. Which you is who? The person you are today, 5 years ago, who you'll be in 50 years, and when is am? This week, today, this hour, this second? And which aspect of you is I? Are you your physical body, your thoughts and feelings, your actions? These waters of abstract logic are tricky to navigate, and so it's probably fitting that to demonstrate the complexity, the Greek historian Plutarch used the story of a ship. How are you I? As the tale goes, Theseus, the mythical founder king of Athens, single-handedly slayed the evil Minotaur at Crete, then returned home on a ship. To honor this heroic feat, for 1,000 years, Athenians painstakingly maintained his ship in the harbor, and annually reenacted his voyage. Whenever a part of the ship was worn or damaged, it was replaced with an identical piece of the same material, until at some point, no original parts remained. Plutarch noted the ship of Theseus was an example of the philosophical paradox revolving around the persistence of identity. How can every single part of something be replaced, yet it still remains the same thing? Let's imagine there are two ships. The ship that Theseus docked in Athens, Ship A, and the ship sailed by the Athenians 1,000 years later, Ship B. Very simply, our question is this: does A equal B? Some would say that for 1,000 years there has been only one ship of Theseus, and because the changes made to it happened gradually, it never, at any point in time, stopped being the legendary ship. Though they have absolutely no parts in common, the two ships are numerically identical, meaning one and the same. So A equals B. However, others could argue that Theseus never set foot on ship B, and his presence on the ship is an essential qualitative property of the ship of Theseus. It cannot survive without him. So, though the two ships are numerically identical, they are not qualitatively identical. Thus, A does not equal B. But what happens when we consider this twist? What if, as each piece of the original ship was cast off, somebody collected them and rebuilt the entire original ship? When it is finished, undeniably, two physical ships will exist, the one that stopped in Athens and the one in Syracuse. Each could lay claim to the title, the Ship of Theseus, but only one could actually be the real thing. So which one is it? And more importantly, what does this have to do with him? Like the ship of Theseus, you are a collection of constantly changing parts. Your physical body, mind, emotions, circumstances, and even your words, always changing, but still, in an amazing and sometimes illogical way, you stay the same too. This is one of the reasons that the question of who am I is so complex. And in order to answer, like so many Greek minds before you must be willing to dive into the bottomless ocean of philosophical arrogance. Only you could just answer, I am a legendary hero saving a powerful ship on an adventure. That could work too.
Simple, powerful, and the idea of starting with this little video is to stimulate the question. Who are you? Now, from the time of Socrates, which was before Plutarch, he, you know a little bit the story, he had a teaching that was considered heresy during this time. The heresy was, you are spirit, soul, you're not the body. That's Bhagavad Gita message. You're not the body, you're spirit, soul. Remember, Sankhya philosophy, categories of matter, categories of spirit. We belong to the spirit side. We don't belong to the categories of matter side. But there are different categories of matter. Gross physical elements make up the body. And there's subtle physical elements, mind, intelligence, all people. Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, Sankhya philosophy. But we're not, that's not who we are. So he said it sometime after Krishna said it, and he was put in jail for heresy. And when he was on trial, they found him guilty of heresy because he wouldn't budge from his convictions. So, as the story goes, he was condemned to death, and the death sentence was to drink hemlock. You familiar with the story? Yeah. Well, there he is. They give him this little vial of hemlock, and he's supposed to drink it. But before he drank the hemlock, they gave him this privilege. You can decide what happens with your body after death. You know, what the funeral is going to be like. And his celebrated reply, how shall we bury you? However you please, if you can touch me, and I do not get away from you, because the soul is not the body. But you can bury the body, but you can't bury the soul. That was, so they drank the hemlock, was the end of Socrates in his wisdom literature. But his wisdom continues till today. Here's a little diagram. You can just see a number of graphics like that. So there's the coverings of the soul. The spiritual is at the center. There's body, mind, and intellect. So you all have some intellect. You wouldn't be at this university. But in addition to the intellect, there's the mind. The function, here's the functions. A mind, intellect function is discernment. You can discriminate one thing from another thing. Like maybe some of you have taken an IQ test, maybe some of you have studied an IQ test. Who knows, maybe somebody made up an IQ test. And it's just it's multiple guess, multiple choice. You're supposed to say which one doesn't fit with the rest of the other three. It's just discernment. That's the intellect. It can discern one thing from another thing. That's discrimination, in the positive sense of discrimination. Discernment. That the intelligence of the mind has another function, according to Bhagavad Gita. The mind's function is thinking, feeling, willing. You'll see the verses from Bhagavad Gita. By contemplating an object, so there's the sight, or that the mind is contemplating an object, and some attachment being developed. Some affinity for that object, I like it or I don't like it. And then, you know, there's something that happens, some action, and sometimes it can become an obsession. I got to get one, or I got to get rid of this thing, or this person, or something. Thinking, feeling, willing, and then action. So the mind precedes the body, generally. And there's the body does stuff. Mind does stuff, the intellect does stuff. But they're all animated or given life by the soul within. That's what they're trying. And that little skinny guy, you'll see him several times, that's the soul, that's us. And those who are thoughtful, the Bhagavad Gita encourages a mode of goodness quality is introspection. Mode of goodness quality. So, I'm looking at you because you're not familiar, and everybody else very somewhat familiar with Bhagavad Gita. So according to Bhagavad Gita, material nature, like colors, there's three primary colors: red, yellow, red, and blue. And by mixing the three, you can make any color. The whole spectrum of color comes from three. Similarly, material nature, three modes: goodness, light; passion, red; ignorance, blue. And by mixture, you get material nature in all of its combinations and manifestations. Driven by or impelled by the three modes. The mode of goodness is illumination, leads to light, and knowing who you are, because that's our time. Who are you? So by introspection, it helps. Passion is go, just achieve, accomplish, and get busy and do stuff. There's some intelligence operating, otherwise you can't do stuff. But primary is passion for the go people. And the ignorance is destroy, or sleep, or damage, or do harm to yourself or others. So introspection is encouraged to know yourself. There's a nice verse from Bhagavad Gita. Look at this. Chapter 3. Indriyani paranyahur. The working senses, the indriyas. They're superior to dull matter. Para. And superior to ahur. And then the superior to the senses is the mind. Mana. And intelligence is still higher than the mind. And the soul, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So to know who you are, there's the package, the coverings of the soul, but then there's the animating force, the soul within. That's who we are. The coverings, like, I'm wearing a certain kind of cloth. That's not who I am. And someone else is wearing another set of cloth. So you got a Mexican body, and they've got an Indian body, and I've got an American body, and we're not this body. We have one. We have a garment, another verse in Bhagavad Gita. As garments are discarded, and you get another set of garments tomorrow. So similarly, the soul passes from one body to the next body, and it's the soul that's the self that's transmigrated. And if you don't come to the answer to that question, who am I? According to Bhagavad Gita, the soul continues to pass from one body to another body to another body, and the transmigration of the soul, or in the modern language, reincarnation, the transmigration of the soul continues endlessly. Beginninglessly and endlessly. And then the idea of recognizing who am I, it can terminate the cycle of transmigration, it can terminate reincarnation, or it leads to moksha. Those of you from India who know moksha. Liberation. Liberation. No more birth. Just by knowing who you are. Well, there's a couple of good things. Like, I'm part of something that's bigger than me. So, there's that little dot, that's us. So, here's a lady polishing a birthday. Same principle. This is described right in a verse in Bhagavad Gita, where the illustration is a lady polishing a page, eagerly attached to the page, and And she's so attached to the cage, she's neglecting the bird inside. The bird croaks. Because the bird has its needs. And the cage has its needs. So sometimes the bird that's different from the cage is the result of the cage publishing civilization. There's something that people think is really important. Is the cage, the body. Pause. It's a nice graphic. This is illustrating an event in a book by a cardiologist, heart specialist, who did open heart surgery at Emory University. Open heart surgery. These days, it happens a lot. So, in one particular case, Dr. Michael Sabam was performing open heart surgery, and during open heart surgery, they hook up the body to different machines to see, if the body stops. So they have something that measures the heartbeat, and they have something that measures the nervous system, EKG system. So their little meter can tell them the heart stop. And then the EKG says the nervous system stopped. So that's a sign that the body is dead. The heart stops. So when that happens, they're prepared. You see in the painting, they have these electrodes they put on the chest of the patient, and basically you jumpstart. You try to jumpstart the body. The electrodes give signals to the heart to pump. When the body isn't doing it, they artificially do it, and sometimes it works. The heart starts beating again of its own accord. They can remove the electrodes. The EKG system is restored. And during that period of time, it's called cardiac arrest, heart failure, cardiac arrest. So this happened with one patient of Dr. Sabam, and they did the procedure, and the patient survived. So a couple of days later, as a good doctor will do, he went to the bedside of his recovering patient, and how you doing, sir? And the patient went on to describe to Dr. Sabam what happened during cardiac arrest. Listen carefully, it's the key to this little segment. He described that he was floating up above his body. It's not the body, he's looking down at the body, as the soul, and he described to the doctor three things. The conversation between the nurse, the assistant, and the doctor. The assistant saw what happened. So the doctor gave an instruction, get the electrodes, and then they did this procedure. He heard, repeated to the doctor who was in the room doing the surgery, what they said to each other. So there's auditory clarity. There was visual clarity, and there's memory. That's the mind. So the senses and the mind were all working. Even the body was dead, which means the seat of consciousness is something other than the body. In modern science, what's consciousness? That's a nice topic. It's a popular topic these days. I mean, I don't know if you run into it here, but it's a popular. I know at Oxford University is a buzz. It's something they study from the field of science and medicine and other fields. They deeply study it. So consciousness, main point is, consciousness other than the mind or the senses. And even during cardiac arrest, there is retention of the experience. Memory is still working, the mind is still working, and the senses are still working, even when the body's dead. So the seat of consciousness is something else. Got it? Seat of consciousness is not the body or the mind. So, in modern science was saying it's the electrochemical events happening in the brain. That's what consciousness is. So if electrochemical events stop, consciousness stops. But the consciousness doesn't stop. this out of body, the acronym OBE, they call it, out of body experience. So I was really interested in what I read, because I have a medicine background in my college training. So I started reading a little bit further, other reports like this. So I found one, there's multiple. And it's on the other side of the country, in the state of Washington, Emory University, Washington University, is the other place, School of Medicine. She was, same thing. Only cardiac arrest happened, she went to they survived. She went to the patient didn't describe, they rose above the table and saw the whole scene that was happening. They said they floated across the ceiling, went out the window, the ventilation window, and up 3 flights outside the building. And they found themselves looking inside the janitor's closet, three floors above. And they described what they saw inside the janitor's closet. This is during the cardiac arrest. And the patient describing this to Dr. Sharp. So she was like, what? So she went up 3 flights of stairs, and sure enough, just above the operating room, there was a janitor's closet. So she asked the janitor, can I see inside the closet? But they described what was inside. They said, lady, this is a hospital. I keep this place locked. No one can get in without the key, and I just rearranged what's inside just the other day. So she said, can I go to the doctor? So exactly as the patient saw was what's inside the janitor's closet. And there's another interesting detail. Just outside the janitor's closet, there's a little ledge protruding on the outside of the building, and on the ledge, there was a sneaker that had a little rip in the toe and different colored laces. So, you can't see that from inside, you can see it from outside. So she went up another couple flights, looked down, and there was the sneaker on the ledge that the patient saw. She was like, what? So she did what Dr. Sabam did. She went and asked other people, have you had some out-of-body experience kind of reports from patients? And they said yes. They didn't make much of it, but she did. She wrote a book about it. They explored. And both of them, these are medical practitioners, concluded it goes against the grain of my medical training, but I have to say, it appears that the seat of consciousness is not the body. They didn't want to come right out and say there's a soul, but the seat of consciousness is not the body. That's the indication or implication of these examples. Now here's an American actor. I hope the sound system worked here. This is a fellow, he looks a little different than me. He's dressed a little different than me, but he's saying the same thing I'm saying. Here's what he says.
The reason why spirituality is important is because it is reality. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Who I am and what I am is not my body. It's not even my personality. It's not the trauma I suffered. It's not what I've been through. That there is a little spark of the divine inside of me. There's hard data that shows around mental health and well-being that having serenity, meaning, purpose, a losing of oneself to a transcendent self of the divine increases greatly the quality of our lives. We're a part of something much greater, much more beautiful than ourselves, and in living in that state can greatly enrich your life.
Socrates. It's an age-old message, and some people get it, and some people are, pardon the expression, they're too busy being successful. If you're trying to be successful, to find serenity and contentment and productivity in life with a spiritual conception. So it doesn't take slowing down, it just takes being introspective. Go, go, go. But be introspective while you're being productive in your academic and other things that you do in the course of the decision you make with life. don't neglect the spiritual feature, the question. Now this is spelled wrong. It's Schrodinger, but I can't change the spelling because it's just the way they spelled it online. Consciousness cannot be accounted for in physical terms. Consciousness is absolutely fundamental. Quantum physics. You all know this fellow. It is spelled. Maybe spelled. So consciousness is not a new thing. And it's not only philosophical people that consider this. Very medical practitioners and quantum physicists and people think about it. And the Vedas, we're going back to the word Veda, teaches it also. Long before people were asking these types of questions. I've heard my spiritual master say something on 3 occasions, and I found it curious. I liked it. His statement was, the soul is both conscious and consciousness. And I thought, that's cool. But what does it mean? But really, what does it mean? The soul is both conscious and consciousness. So at some time passed, I kept asking, what does that mean? And I came across a statement from the Upanishads. No, those of you from India, you know what the Upanishads are. They're the philosophical portion of the Vedas, the Gyan portion of the Vedas. So it's very terse statements that say things. So there's this terse statement in the Upanishads that says, just like a lamp is both luminous and lights up the pots and plates in the room, so that the soul is situated within the body. So, therefore the image. There's a lamp that's luminous, and the light from the luminous lamp extends through somewhere around the room, and then you can see what you couldn't see without the lamp, which is the pots and the plate, the stuff, drugya, things. Things become visible or knowable by consciousness. So the soul is both conscious, and consciousness spreads from the place where the soul resides. The soul is situated in the heart of the body, and then the soul is luminous, and it lights up, it spreads throughout. Light emanates from a living being, departs after death. Ultraviolet photon emissions. So this is the University of Calgary. They did some study. No, this university. So they did some study on photons that emanate from the soul. They were able to measure it. And then when the soul is no longer present, there's no photons. So that light, photons, is a measure of light. And there's light from the soul. When the body is dead, the color, the complexion, the luminosity of the body is gone. That's visible, but they can measure it. So I like graphics. Here's a graphic. This is this Jiva means soul. Both consciousness and extends consciousness. Both conscious and extends conscious. So that's an eggshell, and there's some light coming out of the eggshell. And then when the eggshell opens up a little bit, that's expanded consciousness. And then the ideal of yoga is nirvana, or where consciousness is completely distinct from and exists apart from the body. With the body, without the body. With the body or without the body. Nirvana is no longer identifying with the covering. It's a state of consciousness. And out-of-body experiences is a little bit like that. So out-of-body experiences don't only happen in medical hospitals. Sometimes there's car accidents, and people that are in car accidents report having an out-of-body experience. There's a moment where there's a trauma, some event happens, and they're observing the car crash or something from distant place, out of body experience. It's not totally uncommon. So it's so common, there's an acronym, OBE. The books about OBEs, people in different situations happen. Now, a related topic, here's a Chinese fellow. You can tell by his eyes and, his little beard and smoking some kind of a pipe of who knows what's in there. And the question is it possible to have a soul-to-soul relationship? Body-to-body relationship, mind-to-mind relationship, what about soul-to-soul relationship? Is it possible? And the answer is found in the Vedas, and when there's the medium of the super soul. So he's got a friend, and he's also Chinese, and he has a little bit bigger beard, but there's something they have in common. This fellow has a soul within, and this fellow has a different soul within. But souls, they share that in common. But in addition to they share soul in common, likeness is a body to some degree, there's also the super soul. See that next to the individual soul. And the super soul is within the heart of one living entity and another living entity. It's the same super soul. The supreme that's within the heart of every one of us seated in this room. And there's a plant in the back of the room. There's a soul inside that plant, and there's a super soul inside, side by side with that soul. And maybe there's some little bugs crawling around, and there's a soul, and then super soul. Super soul is all pervasive. The same super soul. Now, going back to the topic of this distinguishing the self, the soul, from the coverings. So what differentiates us from a machine is consciousness. Once upon a time, this is many years ago, I was visiting not just universities, I also got some invitations to go to high schools. And I put two and two together. High school kids like show and tell. So I asked somebody who was a little bit smart. This was like so many years ago, where a light-sensitive wafer was put on top of a printing machine, and then there was a little button you pressed on top of the plexiglass so they could see what's inside. And inside was a little machine, a light machine. So you just press the button, they could see the red light, this is pressing the button in. The light-sensitive wafer read, there's a red light. And then there was a little machine that printed out on a little piece of paper, I see a red light. So you can simulate it, that's what robotics is. And they can detect something and then speak something. So this was very simple, it was printed out. I see red light. So the question I was asking the kids in the classroom, where's the experience of perception in this little device? In robotics. There's no experience, there's behavior. You can simulate all kinds of behaviors, and it can be very sophisticated. I mean, I don't need to tell you, you know more about it than I do. But like this big display that China just did, and these wolves that are with armed, they can run here and there and attack them. Yes? Just recently on display in Beijing. So robotic can do all kinds of stuff. One of the campuses that, I don't know if they have it here, one of the campuses I visited, they had a little box, a white box, that was zooming along the sidewalk. And I asked, what's that? And they said it's a delivery system for pizzas. So students in a dorm X, they call up pizza place, can you send me, 3 pizzas and some milkshake or something? They put it in the hot box, and they program this little white machine, and zooms them off and go on the sidewalk. It makes little noise, so they don't bump, it stops when it sees people, and it's like your pizza hot. You know, there's all kinds of applications for robotics. But where's consciousness? There's somebody on the other end pushing buttons. And without it, without the button pusher, you have just the technology of making the machine, but then you have somebody has to push the button as well as making the machine. So the bodies are, that's a machine. Yantra Rudani Maya. In Bhagavad Gita language. The body is but a yantra. There's no experience of seeing the red light accompanying the mechanical response. Another little anecdote and then about to end. Scientists have studied what makes up the elements of the body. Here's what they found with scientific laboratory. Enough iron to make 6 small nails, carbon to make 900 pencils, sugar to sweeten 10 cups of coffee, potassium to fire a toy can. And then there's other things. Enough lime to make 7 bars of soap, lime and fat. Phosphorus, 20 matchboxes. Water to fill a 10-gallon tank. And a little sulfur, calcium, and other trace elements. So if you wanted the ingredients to make a body, it costs you around $20. But what's more valuable? The bag of chemical worth $20? Is that all we are? Supposing there's a car wreck. Supposing it's a BMW $50,000 car. Which is more valuable? Then it got crushed in the accident or the $50,000 car? $20 friend with a $50,000 car. And another graphic, I like this one. And we're almost done. That fellow that was back to us, that's us. And we're looking out at life. And on the one side is birth, the other side is death, and in between is what goes in between, birth and death. Life. So what goes in there? Supposing you don't ask a question. You just go through life. But supposing you ask a question. This is, I'm encouraging. Who am I? Am I truly happy? So very soon, next week, I'm going to Brandeis. You heard of that place? Brandeis is in western Massachusetts. Brandeis University. You know, by the name Brandeis, it was Jewish people that founded it, but now it's kind of like a general university, Brandeis University. So this is the topic. What's real happiness? This is related. What, to be truly happy, well, first I have to know what happiness is, because commonly a sense of happiness is senses meet sense object. But that's not what happiness is. What's my goal in life? What's human life meant for? And after this, what happens next? Too busy to ask those questions. The Bhagavad Gita asks those questions. This is a cover painting for the Bhagavad Gita for our friend from Mexico. That's the cover. The scene is a battlefield. The person who is the chief #1 warrior, his name is Arjuna, Krishna's friend. And Krishna said, I'm not going to be in this battlefield, but I'll be your chariot driver. Okay. So the chariot driver was asked, bring my chariot between the armies. Big armies. Chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita is the scene. And Arjuna says, I'm out of here. And gives his reasons, ethical reasons why I can't. And then they have some, he reaches the point where he says to Krishna, I don't know what is best for me. You please instruct me. And then comes Bhagavad Gita. Consciousness. Studies. This is a painting depicting this fellow that's on the right side. He was the prime minister of at that time it was around a third of India today. in the northeastern part of India. And he left his position of being prime minister to be a follower of Lord Chaitanya, who's pictured on the right, a sannyasi. And when he met him, fell at his feet and just asked these two questions in Bengali. Ke ami, who am I? Same question. And then, why do the threefold miseries always give me trouble? Threefold miseries. Why do I have to suffer? Why? Why? Who am I and why am I in this material existence? This is a portrait painting of my spiritual master who helped me get on the journey of asking these questions. My journey led me to what you see in front of you. And then somebody else was, Urbana and a professor at the university here, and somebody else, something else, and something else. So what it looked like on the other end of having the answer to that question is going to vary from person to person because we're different. We're individuals making choices as we go along. And choices are good. But make sure, my encouragement, summation of all this presentation is make sure the light's on. Like, who am I? Like, and if you don't have the answer, that's okay. Keep asking the question. Because if you don't ask the question, the answer will hit you in the head and you still won't recognize it. But if you ask the question, you're more likely to get the answer than if you don't ask the question. And Bhagavad Gita inspires the question and supplies the answers. And the understanding of Bhagavad Gita's message becomes easier if you're asking the question. And same, this whole semester, you're going to be busy with your academic work, I'm sure, that's fine. Be busy. But don't be so busy you don't ask the question in the course of the semester. And just study Bhagavad Gita. And that's a recording, that's the end. That was a recording of my spiritual master being interviewed by the New York Post, and the arrangement they had was just a phone recording, like the audio recording. He was asking his questions. Swami, did you come to this country? There must have been some reason why you came. Yes. Can you share with the audience what is that reason? People should know the answer to this question. So I'm not visiting you, chanting Urbana. Ask the question and find the answer. Not check the box, kind of get an A in your exam, kind of an answer, but something inside. Well, not really. And what's the purpose of all of what I'm doing here or anywhere in the course of my life? Where's this train going anyway? You get on the train, it's good to know where you're going. What's the destination? And if you don't ask, we'll say it one more time. If you don't ask, repeat it, birth and death. And if you do ask, there's the opportunity, at least you know what the train ride is and where the train is going. And ultimately, the destination is to know yourself. And no one who knows oneself, punar janma na. No more birth. And don't ask, guaranteed. The the cycle is working well. Make a choice. Make a good choice. That's it. And then, essential for us, followers of Lord Chaitanya, who's pictured here, along with chanting from these feet, is asking these questions. So the two go together, Bhagavad Gita and the mantra meditation. Let's see if there's comments or questions. No, this is a microphone that doesn't move. So you're going to have to speak up because I have this microphone. It works. Do we have a portable? No portable.
Yes.
And woke you up. You have a good sleep? Still have a sleep. Okay. Any comments or questions? Yes.
I had a question about one of the things in the presentation. So, is the soul supposed to be material? Because there was a slide in which there was some photon emission. Then also in the pictures, I guess it's a representation. So I was wondering if it's supposed to be like material or...
No. Spiritual can animate material. The body is material, but the body can be animated by presence of the soul. So, photons is something material. What animates or activates the material is the spiritual. So the presence of the spiritual can be measured by the activation of the material, like movements of the body. Then the soul is present. The movements of the body stop, soul is absent. So that's the answer to your question. Photons are material. The soul is spiritual. It animates. It makes it possible. It gives light, and the light illuminates also matter. Soul is conscious and spreads consciousness. Okay.
Thank you so much for the amazing session. I have this specific question to you. So we are living in this fast-paced world, as you know, like all of the college students. We are running towards something.
Yes.
We don't know what it is.
Yes.
We assume when we are in college, it's a job.
Yeah.
Once we get a job, you get high-paying salary.
Then you can lose your job.
And then after getting to the high-paying job, and then this question arises: why did I even come to this job?
Yeah.
And then this family happens, and then taking care of family.
Yeah. Sure.
And then after some time, the question is like, why I'm doing this again?
Yeah.
So I feel this, who am I, or like why I'm doing what I do, it keeps changing every single month, every single year.
This is exactly what's in that little video.
Yeah. So I'm curious that you being aware of yourself, if you reflect back, how would you answer to this question? Yes, we start asking this question, but what was your answer when you keep asking?
No, I can give my autobiography. Have a seat.
Yeah.
I can give my little autobiography. It's going to be different than his, and different than yours, and different than his, and different. All different. But you're asking mine. So, we'll go back here to the original slide, the journey of self-realization. It's a long story. How to tell a long story in a short note. Once upon a time, I was a boy, 3 years ago. I asked lots of questions, and I didn't get answers. I I didn't grow up in a Christian family, I grew up in a Christian family. And so when I went to, as a little Christian boy, I went to Sunday school with Christian boys too. I went to Sunday school and heard about heaven. And I asked Mom and Dad, what's it like there? What's the travel advertisement? I didn't say. What's the travel advertisement? You're supposed to want to go there, right? What's there? They didn't know. They didn't say we don't know. But it was clear they didn't know. So then I asked the priest of the church that I was going to school. He didn't know either. He didn't say I don't know, but he didn't know. And, any place I went, it didn't get answers. So I started getting really busy, being successful, like a young kid growing up in America. It does. To be successful has 3 boxes at least. Academic, social, and if you're a young boy in America, it's sports. Those 3 things, check those 3 boxes, you're successful. They got really busy, striving to be successful, and then what went on in it? What prompted that light I'm not going to go into, but I started asking those same questions again, like these questions. And that led to, it led to one of the things that happened at as an undergraduate student. I met Prabhupada with just coincidence or divine arrangement or something. He was visiting the university that I was attending along with Allen Ginsberg. It's going into more of the story than I probably need. You heard of Allen Ginsberg? Some of you may know. He was a celebrity and a strange fellow at the same time. He was a poet, American fellow, Allen Ginsberg, American poet, that was an advocate of LSD. So he would take LSD and then he'd write poetry. And it was called Stream of Consciousness. He was like all over the place. And then he'd have poetry reading. He would take LSD. The people that liked him would take LSD and he'd read the poetry. And they'd go for a trip with Allen Ginsberg. He was like, that was telling me. And he also liked India. He liked mantra meditation a lot. So he would sing Hare Krishna. So he and Vice Virshanath were traveling together through universities from Boston, heading to the West Coast. They happened to pass through. So I didn't know who he was. I knew who Allen Ginsberg was from photographs. And they were chanting Hare Krishna in the Student Union building. And I just happened to pass by one evening, and there they were, and my life changed. So, how my life changed was starting asking new questions again. And then things started happening. Not things that I hadn't planned, but I used this phrase. There were doors that weren't there before. I walked through the door, and on the other side of the door, there was this interesting, Krishna led for one thing, the next thing, the next thing. I just, found it very interesting. I thought I was getting answers. Because I had some questions. Because I had the questions, I was getting the doors and getting the answers from the association. So it took shape in my life in a certain way. And then there's a number of other people at the same university that I attended. Their life shaped in a different way, in a different way, in a different way, in a different way, in a different way. But with one thing essential, the search and connecting with who you really are. It touches the lives of people. The coverings are different. So the way it expressed itself is going to be different. But for me, it ended up with, I took a leave of absence from my medical studies and took some time to go live in an ashram. Because I wanted answers. And there's other factors involved. I received something and I wanted to give back. That was a big one. Gratitude. My life had changed by his association. It was only, that little moment, and then reading the books and so forth and so on and so on. So I took a leave of absence, that happened to me, and then from studies, and at a certain point in time, like 2 years later, a little light went on and said, okay, now you know what this life of dedication in Bhakti Yoga to Krishna is like, from living in the ashram. Now, do you want to continue with this? It's like an internal dialogue. Or do you want to go back and take medical studies? That's me, not everybody. So I thought about it, took my time, and my thought was, I really like what I'm doing. There's nothing about what I'm doing I don't like. And as far as medical studies, it's nice, but there's a lot of medical doctors and not a lot of people doing this. And so I'm sure if in the course of time, I continue with this, I'll meet some people who are medical students and they can help me become a Krishna-centered medical practitioner. Krishna devotee doctor. So let just with that. That's what happened to me. The Sheikh took field-based on choices. But the center was the question. And genuinely, not cosmetic answer, but a genuine answer. I wanted an answer. Not somebody else's answer. I wanted my answer. I was a little bit rebellious, to be honest. But it was part of the circumstance. This was during the Vietnamese War. And in my generation, it was anti-war. Like, I don't want to, I received draft notice from the United States Army. Mom and Dad, at home, were getting draft notices. And my response was, the war is dumb, and taking somebody out of medical studies to go fight in that dumb war, double bomb, so he's not going to be strong. And they said, look, you'll go to jail. You got to respond. So here's what happened. I became a devotee. I went for the interview at the recruiting station, the U.S. Army recruiting station, and the city near where I lived. The interview was about 3 minutes long. I don't know what they did, but they changed my status. We don't want you. You don't know what they did, but that's the end of the notices. Just by making an internal decision that I want to be connected with reality, with a capital R, like this actor was saying. So, the shape of his life was different than mine. It was okay. Same answer. Just a nice start. Extreme. Yes, and way in the back. You can have to come forward a little bit. Thank you.
So I have a question regarding the mind and the soul, right? If the mind is after, is the mind after experiences that we look for in reality, or is the soul also experiencing all those experiences? Like you showed about the hospital, right? So soul does experience things as well as the mind. Are they both aware of each other?
Depends. Some people are dislocated.
How do you know if you're dislocated?
But there's functions. The two functions are, in simple language, thinking, feeling, willing. Those are mind functions. So feeling, many people identify with the feeling. But the feeling is in relation to some thought. And you have some feeling about that thought. And then willing, those are functions of the mind.
I've seen all these.
Your question specifically is, are they aware of each other? That was your question. So the soul may be or may not be aware. The mind, generally speaking, the mind is, that's me. Period. There's no soul observing the mind, and they're aware of each other. It's just, that's me, it's the mind.
That's really interesting, because like, whenever you have anxiety, quote unquote, right, and you go to someone that's watch your thoughts pass by. So what does that really mean when they say it?
Well, that's when you are the observer of. It's one yesterday evening at the Illinois Institute of Technology. This was our topic. What you're asking was our topic. And one of the ways of detaching oneself, from the misidentification with I am the mind, is to be the observer of the mind. It's a technique or a procedure for persons who have negative emotions. Those negative emotions have them in jail. They're prisoners of their own emotions. And there's a lot of people. So, so back to your question. It's certainly possible for one to be the observer of the other and vice versa. It's quite extraordinary for that to happen. But it takes self-realization to be able to do that. So supposing that someone's a self-realized individual, they can observe the mind. Oh, that's interesting. Just like, the weather change. It was summer, now it's fall. Besides the temperature, there's the leaves and there's other symptoms. There's rain and there's symptoms of the weather change. So you can perceive it, but you don't have to identify with it. Then winter comes. Wait till you guys get to winter. You see it. Oh. You can see what's going on within the mind, but you don't have to identify with it. And then if intelligence is strong, based upon that detachment, then you can direct the mind towards wholesomeness and health, happiness and well-being. And then it's more than just...
those like just constructs of the mind as well, like your happiness and well-being.
Yeah. I'm not sure what this refinement that you're expressed. Do it one more time, slowly.
Aren't happiness and well-being just constructs of the mind and not the soul? Like the soul experience.
There's happiness of the soul, and what the mind reads as happiness is not happiness. Yeah, I'm a little kid, and I'm eating strawberry ice cream. Yummy. That happiness, that's senses and sense object. That's not happiness. It's a sensation of the senses, but it's not what real happiness is. Real happiness is substantial, not flickering. Now you see it, now you don't. Like, here's a mirror. And now you can see your face. Turn the mirror, you can't see yourself. Now you see it, now you don't. That's not substantial. Happiness is substantial. It stays with you. And it grows. It's the nature of what real happiness is. We want real happiness, but we're getting something else. Thank you. Happiness. That's the British University. Okay.
I can really go without.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah.
You got a good voice.
Okay. Okay. I have a few things, maybe like 2 or 3 things. First of all,
one at a time.
One at a time, sure. First of all, actually, like it's a more of a statement that like whenever I hear the question like, who am I actually remember the summary of Bhagavad Gita in like only a few lines that like whatever I got is from this world and whatever I need is in this world. Whatever I'm doing is for this and whatever I live here. So there is no matter for me to connect myself with something really and then being like really hard by that thing. And that actually sometimes helps me to like understand who I am. So
vairagya, detachment.
Yes, I'm like, I am a person who was able to achieve that thing.
I'm just editing.
Yeah, I just try to understand in that way. If you like, do you think that's something like that?
It's insufficient to know who you're not. I still don't know who I am. It's like, I can understand eating ice cream, strawberry, vanilla, or chocolate. It's not what real happiness is. Or, I like mango juice. But, happiness is more than mango juice. It's gone. And that sensation is gone. So that's insubstantial. Detaching myself from what I'm not is nice. Then who are you? Doesn't answer that question.
That starts the question.
Yes, well, okay. But then keep going with it, because like this fellow that was interviewed, we're part of something that's bigger than us. We're a small part of something that's bigger than us. With that bigger than us, that's yoga. linking us with that bigger than us, with the source of everything, the supreme. That's knowing yourself. And then there's details and details. What is that relationship? What's the form of the soul? And the activities of the soul within that form. Keep going, keep going. Keep going, keep going. But detachment is the beginning. But then detachment, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what is said to be detachment is actually attachment to the Supreme. Because without attachment to the Supreme, I can replace this attachment to the temporary and take up another attachment to the temporary. It can be like pride of thinking I'm a detached fellow now. And it's insubstantial. Wait a while. Tick, 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 now become attached to something else. Either pride from in. Your second question.
Yeah,
For fun.
next to actually more of questions. First of all, so I have a background in cognitive science, so like one thing that we always, like my 4 years just discussing is like the mind-body duality and like what's the mind-body constraint. I always try to get the answer from a perspective of Hinduism and from our culture.
Good.
It was very hard for me to like find good resources to understand that from the perspective of.
Would you like some resources?
Sure.
There's a group of individuals based in Gainesville, Florida, the home of University of Florida. They have this entity, it's called the Bhaktivedanta Institute for Higher Science, BIHS. And they have conferences on this topic. Scholars from Oxford University, scholars from this place and that place, and they have conferences. It's all recorded. And Porchandra, could you give him contact information? This, raise your hand. But for the Bhaktivedanta Institute for Higher Studies in Gainesville, from Material. You have. And they'll connect you. They'll be very happy to connect. And who knows, next time maybe you'll be one of their scholars that's on the podium.
Yeah. And finally, that takes me to the last thing. It's like, right now, like with the, like what already has been discussed, like the pace of the world and like how everything is changing.
Yes.
I don't know why, but sometimes like practicing religion is becoming really hard. Like even within the community.
Why?
Like even I cannot always walk with my japmala or bait, so I have to need a.
You can. I do.
Yeah, like that's like how I can start. Like people
See who you are.
being dark.
The answer is, if you know who you are, nothing can touch you. Social, political, getting drafted to join the army. Nothing can touch you. It's fact. It's fact. You connect with the Supreme and you're protected. The Supreme will protect you. Guaranteed.
That's like where how I can start with. Like people start smoking when they hear I'm fasting, they start making fun of that, and as a small kid, how I can like go.
Okay, smile. Know who you are and smile. Inside, you're smiling. And outside, they're looking like that. Where's this guy? It's okay. Smile. Be who you are. And something that helps you to be who you are is association with those who know who they are. The sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha. Association with those who know who they are. That's nice. Sometimes sanjayate kama krodha vijayate from Bhagavad Gita. You develop qualities like those with whom you have sangha, association. So associate with persons who have the right sangha. You need nothing. It's fine. Do that. whatever it means. Yeah. And this Bhaktivedanta Institute for Higher Studies, these are people that are, way up the totem pole, and they're fine. And the people can understand them or not understanding, and they smile. They're bright people. They're like children. And, they're people they like and not like them. That's okay. They're giving light to the world. There's a lot of darkness in this world. So, someone else will have one more. Yeah. Little guy, yeah. You get the last question. Good.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, thank you very much. And I wanted to mention a few things especially resonated with me. I think when you said when you were a little kid, you were so curious, and I see myself in that. I always wanted to know the why, and that's also why I'm here today. I saw the question and I was thinking to myself, this is a question I always ask myself. The other thing that resonated with me was the two different ships you mentioned.
Yeah.
That does A equal B?
Yeah.
Does it not? Or does it not? And for me, I always ask myself these questions, like, who am I, or am I truly happy?
Yeah.
And sometimes it does feel like when you crack an egg, and the eggshell falls into the egg, and you try to pick it up, every time it just slips out your fingers. And sometimes I feel don't want to say the purpose of getting the egg, because it feels like success. The question is more, as long as I don't get the eggshell, will I not be happy, or will I not know who I am? Does this make sense?
Okay. You're making comment, not so much question. And I'll comment on the comment. Even, it's a two part. One, even if you don't get the answer, keep asking. You're doing that, but keep asking. And as I said, by asking the question, you're more likely, when the knock on the door comes, hello, would you like an answer, at least a partial glimpse at you? Then you're ready, because you're asking the question. The lights on. Asking the question. And then the divine, or the Supreme, or Krishna, will give you opportunities to come across resources, persons, something, that's a little piece to the puzzle, and a little piece to the puzzle helps fit into the bigger picture of the puzzle. It's really along the same line. This is still part one. Along the same line as having a qualified teacher, just like you're here at the university, because there's, at least there's supposed to be, some good teachers in this field, that field, the other field. So you're here because there's teachers, and you want to learn from the teachers. So it's good to have something, a teacher, guru, but teacher, someone that is wise and can impart wisdom. The wisdom literature of Bhagavad Gita. Someone's familiar with Bhagavad Gita, and they live it inside and then outside. And then you bump into that person, you get wisdom. And you associate, learn from that wisdom teacher, and you get some wisdom. So it's like that. That's what I would encourage you, make that recommendation. And there are such people. It doesn't have to be your next door neighbor. It can be just one situation or another. And, find such a person who you can hear from, and ideally sit at the feet of, at least, hear from that person. And that's how this wisdom is spreading around the world in an age of darkness. Now, I wasn't the comparison of the eggshell and the egg cracking, and the bottom line of that example, the egg yolk and the egg white slipping around, trying to pick at it, it's slippery. It's elusive, not hard to get a hold of. But whatever you can get a hold of, this is the second part. As far as the answer to the question, who am I? Little by little by little. And then, this is my experience after practicing full time, for over 55 years, 56 years, counting to 57. It continues to grow. The picture starts to become more refined and more refined. And the sense of my smallness, the humility is part of what happens as you become a little more aware. I'm really tiny. And what my understanding is quite my capacity is tiny. But that which I'm looking towards is not tiny. So let me stay looking towards. And then more and more and more refined comes what you're able to understand. You can't understand what you can share with others. And it can be, in principle, very simple, but the detail starts to be very interesting.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I said last question, but this gentleman back here, he's enthusiastic. Last question.
Thank you very much. I have come a little bit late. I have heard that you are telling that happiness is substantial.
Happiness is what?
Substantial, it's not measurable.
Yeah.
Happiness belongs, everyone feel happy by his or her own happiness. And no one can borrow some happiness for others. My question is that I am a doctor and I have to deal with the patients, not in America, but in outside America.
Okay.
Many people, many youngsters comes to me and telling that I am right. And everybody around surrounds me, they are wrong. What suggestion can I give to them?
You can take the microphone back. My answer to a question like this is it depends. Depends on your relationship, depends on the age of the person, depends on their background, and so something that you can do is ask questions rather than give direction. You find a little bit more about the person. You're just meeting the person who's saying like this. Depends. But I find when you're getting to know a person, just ask. You can teach by asking the right questions. And it depends on the circumstance. I could give them four examples, but it depends on the circumstance. So for example, what does being right mean? What's the difference between being right and being wrong? What's the standard? This is a question. What's the standard of what's right and what's wrong? Is there such a thing as a standard? It's just question. So what do you accept as a standard? You say that's right. If someone says other than what you say, that's not right or wrong. That's your message. It's just ask questions. So now then, that's it, so that means you're God, right? Is that what you're saying? Because other than, by definition, what's a nice definition of God? So it's just by educating, by asking questions. Then it's depending at a certain point, they get the point, and then you can turn it around and make a declarative statement. Your sense of what is right is relative. It's not absolute. Is there such a thing? There is such a thing. What is that such a thing? And And where do you find such a thing? The standard of absolute right. The source of everything. Is there such a thing as the source of everything? Are you free from the source of everything? Are you the same? Really? What about death? What about disease? So you educate by asking questions, and then you reach certain conclusions. And there is a standard of what is right. And that which comes from the Supreme. Then here's some scripture. Dharma Yisak Bhagavat. So you become knowledgeable in scripture and teach them according to scripture. What's right comes from the Supreme. Dharma is what is to be done, what is right. And where does Dharma come from? Not from a fallible being, from an infallible being. That's Dharma. That's right. Do you make mistakes? I hear from. You ever think so? Then you're not the infallible Supreme. There is one. And let's go there and see what, then that's what's right. So are you aligned with that which was from the Supreme? That's the real standard of being right, is align yourself with that, the absolute. It depends on how you go about having that kind of dialogue with someone. Okay, we're going to end. Here you go. Here,
Thank you, everyone. First, let's please thank Guru Swami for such a beautiful talk.